Hey everyone, Bob Thibodeau here. Thank you for coming to this first video in the new updated version of the podcast training program. Hey man, I got a lot of exciting things to share with you. The prior training, which was created back at the end of 2017 and into 2018, uh, it was good and it still is good. A lot of great information in there. A lot of things will be staying the same, but things happen, transitions happen, improvements happen, better statistics happen, and I'm going back through now, and you are part of this updated training system. And I just want to thank you for joining me in this. Okay. Normally, these trainings will be live, but because of today, it's more statistic oriented, so that you can understand this. This video is mainly meant for those who are wondering if they should get into podcasting or not. Why is all the hoopla going on about podcasting? Now, this is great information if you're already a podcaster and you just want to get better. It's going to give you some great background information that just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and allowing me to help you get better. But this video is designed to give the foundations of why podcasting is becoming so popular. Okay, I'm going to try and keep these videos fairly short. This one might go 30 minutes or so. As we proceed through this training program, I'm shooting for 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to zero in on one technique and talk about it. And, just instead of having you commit 45 minutes to an hour of your time to to watch a video and learn something new, I'm going to just go over it and dive in and try and get it done. Now, that means instead of the prior training program was like 10 or 15 videos, this one will be 30 or 40. But each one will be short and consumable and zero right in on it with very little fluff. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to the share screen. And you should be seeing that video now. I'll go ahead and turn off my camera so I don't distract you. Now, this is for 2020 and beyond, so at least for the remainder of this year and maybe in the next year, how you can best serve your clients. You can be the hero. They are needing your services. They need you and what you have to offer. Well, what does that have to do with a podcast? I have a product, I have a book, I have a coaching program. What does that have to do with what I offer my clients? Because podcasting can help you grow. It really can. Okay. Right now, there's been unprecedented growth and potential. Now, this information is coming. I took it from every year. Edison Research compiles the latest statistics and then publishes it. And this information was as of the end of 2019. Okay. And this is up-to-date information, but I got some great news for you as well. And that is that we have just gone over 1 million podcasts. That's right. There are now 1 million podcasts on Apple Podcasts, and as of about mid-April. And this email was sent out. This was a great statistics. The chart just shows you that over here, 700,000 from last July, and they anticipated that first part of this year they go over 1 million, and they did. Okay, we are now 1,056,358 podcasts as of the date of this chart. Now, there's new podcasts being added every single day, and we'll get into that here. New shows in Apple Podcasts just in March 2020 was 63,000 new podcasts started. 63,000. Okay, now there's also about 12,000 per month. I didn't bring that chart up, but about 12,000 a month are being deleted because, you may think 1 million podcasts, 63,000 a month are starting. What the hell? Why? How am I going to stand out in that crowd? What's in it for me, folks? Apple has said that out of the 1 million podcasts, about 400,000 of them are dormant or expired or inactive. So that means 60% of the podcasts have current episodes being published. What does that consider a current episode? Anything within the last 90 days. If someone published an episode in the last 3 months, they're still considered current according to Apple's standards. Something along the average of about 12 a day, maybe a little bit more, are being deleted, 100 and some per week. But the thing to remember is out of that 1 million, 60% of them are considered active. So if you're starting a new podcast, you've already jumped one step ahead of 40% of those 1 million registered podcasts on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Okay. Now, how many people listen to, in America, Americans listen to 62 million Americans listen to podcasts every single week. Every single week. That's what, a third of America? No, that's not right. About 15, 20% of America listens to podcasts every single week. 62 million estimated. Okay. It's probably more than that because this is 2019 now. This is the chart from 2019. So Americans are listening to podcasts, and the average listener out of those 62 million, the average person listens to 7 different podcasts each and every week. Now, if you release, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's still considered one podcast. They're listening to one podcast. That's yours. That means they're listening to 7 total podcasts per week. Now, you can see the statistics here on this chart, but the point I'm trying to emphasize is people are listening. The popularity of podcasts continues to grow. Now, most listeners will use their smartphones to listen to a podcast. 2/3 of Americans, 65%, use their smartphone. What does that mean? That means when you design your podcast player, you need just not to take into consideration the desktop apps, because that's 1/3 of America. But you also need to make sure that the images and the displays and the player and all that, it looks right on a mobile phone as well. And you need to have a podcast host that will automatically transfigure that for you. Okay, so if you don't, that's one of the things you should consider. Because if you're just dealing with simply a phone app, there are some podcast hosts out there that all they deal with is a phone app. Well, you're cutting out 1/3 of Americans who are listening on the desktop, okay, or a laptop. Now, you don't want to cut 1/3. Think if you had a brick or mortar store and 3 people are come walking up and you say, sorry, only 2 of you can come in. We don't need the other one. Well, you're also going to lose some of those, well, if my friend can't come in, I can't come in either, right? Same thing with podcasts. You want to include everybody. If somebody wants to listen to your podcast on their smartphone, they need to be able to. Someone wants to listen to your podcast on their laptop, they need to be able to. Someone wants to listen to your podcast on the desktop computer, they need to be able to. So you need to make sure your host takes care of that. All right. The majority of listeners are less than 3 years of listening to podcasts. Now, what does that mean? Okay, this chart helps to explain it. Ever listen to a podcast? Just one time. 11% have considered that more than 5 years ago. Okay, monthly podcast consumers and weekly podcast consumers, 11, 12% have been listening for more than 5 years. But if you combine the number of 1 to 3 years ago, 6 months to 1 year ago, and less than 6 months ago, ever listened, 77%. Monthly listening, 75%, and weekly listeners, 75%. That means in the last 3 years, the people who started listening to the podcast continue to do so. So you can make a dent in the podcasting market and know that when you have someone subscribe to your podcast, they're going to stay subscribed because they're listening to 7 of them each week. Okay? Now, compared to 1 year ago, ever listened, they listen more, 30% are listening more, 42% are listening the same. Only 28% are listening less. Weekly podcast consumers, look at this, 9% are listening less. 91% are listening the same or more. Folks, this is the new broadcast medium. I've been saying all along that podcasting today is really where FM radio was back in the 1980s. It was in doctors' offices and elevators. It was getting really popular. People wanted more of it. The quality was just great, but they couldn't listen to it. So they had to go out and buy a special radio to listen to it. You had to special order it in your car in order to listen to FM radio. It wasn't standard. But this is where podcasting is. Notice that in all these new cars now that have those display screens on it, podcast is one of the apps you can connect through your car. It has the little phone connector, USB plug and all that you can plug in your phone and listen to the podcast off your phone on your car audio system. This is the coming trend. That's why podcasting is becoming so popular. Listening locations. Most people still listen to podcasts either at home or while commuting. And you can see those charts right there. They also listen to it when they're out for a walk or while they're working out. A third of the people listen at work. And also a third of the people while in public transit. But look at the majority of people still listen to podcasts at home. Some of these people are at work or down here. They're, the third of the people listen at work. When they get home, they still listen to podcasts. If they're at work and they go to the gym, they're still listening to podcasts. They get home, they take the dog and the wife and kids for a walk, they're still listening to podcasts. On their daily commute, most people, the statistics, AAA, I think, releases said the average person commutes 30 minutes one way to work. So that's 30 minutes in, 30 minutes home. That's one more hour they're listening to podcasts, other than the local traffic and things like that. Now, how do they listen to podcasts? How do they find podcasts? Put it like that. 73% search the internet. The others look at, they see a Facebook post promoting an episode or a podcast, so they'll click through there. The big one is recommendations from friends and family. If you are able to impact a person's life with your podcast, you are able to provide an answer to a problem they have through your podcast. It could be something as simple as, let's say you enjoy golf and you're pretty good at it and people are asking for your help on it. And you decide to just release a podcast on how to improve your golf game. You could be a car mechanic, but you like golf and people ask for your help on improving their golf scores. You decide to release a podcast on it. It doesn't have to be in your line of trade. It can be whatever interests you. It can be whatever people are asking your help for. And I get into all that during the podcast training session that we'll be starting here on the next couple episodes of what should your podcast be about. But the point I'm trying to say is you provide an answer to a problem they're having. And we'll just use that golf as an instruction as an opportunity. When that person improves their golf game, they get an extra 10 yards out of the swing, or they fix a slice. And then next time they're out with a foursome and their friends and guys, dang, I wish I could drive for it. Well, if you use this, if you tee it up half an inch higher or a quarter inch higher, or whatever the case may be, do this. And wow, where did you learn that? Oh, I heard it on this podcast. What's the name of the podcast? And now you got another listener, right? Recommendations go a long way. So between recommendations, social media posts, and searching the internet, which means your website has to be able to be SEO active. You need to make sure there's backlinks, and I get into all that in the training process. I'm not going to take your time here. But between those three things, folks, your podcast will take off. You'll start generating an audience and getting subscribers, which equals listeners. Along with that is recommendations from other podcast hosts. So, and we get into how to promote your podcast by using other people's podcasts, and that's part of the training program. But those top four things will increase the number of people that listen to your podcast and that you're able to help. Okay. One advantage podcasting has over radio or television is radio or television takes a dedicated time to listen or to watch. Think about it. Just think about it for a second. You're at a doctor's office, right? And you're watching the television program that's on in the waiting room, and you're really getting into it. Then what happens? They call you to the back. There's no television in that room. You're in there 20, 30, 40 minutes, and you come back out, and another show is on. By the time you get home, that show you were watching that you're really interested in is gone. If you're listening to streaming radio on your cell phone, and you got your little earbuds in, you're listening to a program that you want to hear, same thing. You turn it off to go into the back, come back out, turn on your cell phone, the streaming service on your radio again, that program's over. That's why I like calling, podcasting more or less on-demand radio. You listen to it when you want to, because if you're just focused in on radio, even if it's at your car radio, and you get to where you're getting to your doctor's appointment and there's a great segment on, but you have to get inside. When you come back out, you miss it. It's gone. You can't go back and watch it or listen to it, right? So you can only listen or watch what's being offered. Now, what activities are done while listening to podcasts? Some people, 70% say, I'm just listening to the podcast. I'm not really doing anything. Now, although it says 70%, and that's a great number, look at the others. While doing housework, 59%. While driving their car, 52%. Relaxing before they go to sleep, 51%. While working kitchen work, cooking, baking, whatever, walking outside, running or exercising, and riding public transportation. These are the top activities being done when people listen to podcasts. You can't do that watching television. You can't walk outside carrying the TV with you. You can't go for a run carrying a TV with you. You can't carry a TV with you when you're riding the bus or the subway. While you're driving a car, it's highly recommended you don't watch television. Okay, but you can do this so with podcasting. Since we talked a little bit about that, what can your podcast be about? Again, what do most people ask for your help with? What are your interests? What's your background? What's your profession? What is the purpose of your podcast? Are you doing it for instructional purposes? Is it a way to help promote your book or your business, your product, your service to your clients? That all factors into what you should be talking about. You could have say a car mechanic business, not a problem. You can have a podcast about car mechanics, helping people. They don't have to take the car to you. How do I adjust the carburetor on a 72 Ford or whatever? And you can walk them through that on your podcast. And they can listen to it, go out and do it. Wow, awesome. But then if it's not working right, at the end of your podcast, tell them, if you're having problems with it, give us a call and you can bring it in. We'll give you a free diagnostic, blah, 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 whatever you do. And you're generating business that way as well. Okay. So this is all awesome stuff. And you can use this to your advantage. Your background or profession. Again, if you're a car mechanic, but people are asking for your help, question number one, what do most people ask for your help with? And it happens to be golf. Your customers come in, hey, how's the golf game? Blah, blah, blah. And you could be a car mechanic and have a, improve your golf game type of podcast. You could be a heart surgeon and your pastime is fixing up old classic cars on the weekend. It doesn't have to be on, heart surgery things, cardiac stuff. It can be. You could be a heart surgeon and you have a health related podcast. You can be an auto mechanic, have an auto mechanic related podcast. You could be a golf professional, have a golf related podcast. Or you could be a golf professional who had a heart attack. Now you're all into health and fitness, and your podcast, even though you're a professional golfer, is all about health and fitness. So it can be whatever interests you, whatever your passion is, and whatever people ask for your help with. Now, here are some topics that consumers are interested in. And you can see, music is top rated. Okay. Music, news, entertainment with celebrity, gossip type, Hollywood insider type information. History, sports is a big one. Like I'm over here, the 19% area with philosophy and religion with my podcast. Well, Bob, you could look at that. You could almost triple your listenership if you did music and things like that. That's not my niche. Right? Think about it. Would you rather be a minnow in the ocean, or would you rather be a minnow in a little, koi pond? Well, that probably wouldn't be a good spot to be a minnow either, would it? but would you rather be a goldfish in a koi pond rather than in the ocean? So the point is, you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond. So, whatever your niche is, whatever your passion is, whatever your calling is, that's where you need to be. If you're into home gardening and, you could have a garden podcast on, apartment deck gardens, on, backyard gardens, on indoor gardens.
And that's all, it's only 16% of the people that are interested in that. But those 16%, you become a major player in that niche by releasing quality episodes on a consistent basis. You're going to start getting those listeners listening to you. Out of, a million people, 16% is what, 160,000 are listening to garden podcasts. And there might be, let's say, 10,000 podcasters in that area, but you become one of the top 100, you're going to be getting awesome amounts of downloads and listeners on that. So it's all proportional. And don't focus on, well, if this is number one and number two, that's what I have to have a podcast. Then no, you don't. It's whatever your specialty is, your background, profession, the purpose of your podcast. Again, if it's just information, great. But if you're trying to use your podcast to help generate additional coaching clients or book sales and things like that, you need to take all that into consideration as well. Okay. A lot of times I get asked this question, I understand what you're saying, Bob, but will people actually listen to my podcast? I mean, I'm a newbie at all this. Well, again, I call it on-demand radio. Okay, we already went over the problems you have with traditional radio and television. Podcasting is on-demand radio, because if you miss the radio broadcast, you miss the entire program. With podcasting, the listener can download the episode and listen whenever they want to. If they get interrupted halfway through, they just pause it and come back later and catch up. All right. Look at this chart. These are podcasts that have been downloaded and listened to later. And if you add up these numbers, 78% of all the people listening listen to the downloaded episodes within 2 days. 97% listen within 1 week. That means you have 100 people that download 100 episodes. 97 of those people will listen to 97 of those podcasts in 1 week. You may download yours on Monday. It may not be listened to the following Sunday, but over the course of the week, it will be listened to. If you release Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you do that for 100 episodes, 97 of those episodes will be listened to. And if the average person listens to 7 podcasts, you're one of 7 that they're zeroing in their time with. Okay? So, this is a growing trend. But I understand what you're saying there, Bob, but will people actually listen to the downloaded podcast, or they just download it and say they did? Well, here is what percentage of all the podcasts you downloaded out of 100% would you say you typically listen to? And if you add up this 26 to 50%, 51 to 75%, 76 to 100%, you add all that up, again, 93% of all downloads are listened to. So if you have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 93% of all your episodes are listened to. That's an awesome number. I can guarantee you in radio, I didn't get that type of response. I did not get that type of feedback on my radio program when I was on nationwide radio. I did not get a statistic that said, well, 93% of our listeners listen to your radio show. Why? Because they may not have been on a convenient time for them. Again, podcasting will allow that to be downloaded to their smartphone or their desktop and listen to at their convenience. 93%. That's an awesome number. Well, if 97% of the people listen to the episodes and 93% of the episodes are listened to, how much of every episode is usually listened to? Well, in the podcast training program that we're going to get into, my motto is shorter is better. And here's the reason why. If you had a 2-hour podcast and someone is, again, in the doctor's office or busy with work, or they're listening to 30 minutes on their commute and they're 30 minutes home, and you're releasing this, 2-3 times a week, they get distracted. They go, they're maybe listening on their workout, and say it's a 45-minute workout. And as they're wrapping up their cool down session, they see how much time's left on your podcast, and it says 1 hour and 15 minutes to go. they're not going to keep listening. They got to go shower, get ready to go to work, and whatever it is they need to do. They did listen to it. You had their interest the entire 45 minutes, but you lost them. And what usually takes place at the end of your podcast episodes? That's your call to action, right? They're missing your call to action. Now, if you had a 30-minute podcast, a 15-minute podcast, or even a 45-minute podcast, and they wrapped up their workout, they're cooling down, they look at it, it says a minute, 30 seconds left. Almost guaranteed they're going to walk one more lap or continue to listen to hear the very end of your interview or your podcast. If you had a 15-minute podcast, they may have listened to the first two episodes, what is called binge listening. They're going to listen to that episode. They're not going to search for another podcast while they're doing their workout. They're just listening. So it goes from one to the other to the other. And again, they wrap up their workout session. They look down and they got 90 seconds left for the end of the third episode. They're probably going to finish it off. All right. But if you have those longer episodes, hour 15, hour half, 2 hours, some people, you say, well, I've heard, a couple people, they got 4-hour episodes. Yes, they do. They've also built up loyal listeners over the years. You're just starting off. You're not there yet. Okay. Listen to me. Shorter is better, right? Here you see the audio podcast episodes you've listened to. Do you typically listen to how much? 93% listen to most of the podcast. Okay, most of the podcast. 52%, the entire podcast. So that's awesome. That's a great number. What about these down here? Those are probably either really people you had not captured their attention in the first 90 seconds or so, or people who, they looked down and saw that, man, there's still an hour to go on this. I can't listen to this for an hour. Either they don't want to or they can't. But that's where, again, I say shorter is better. Nobody ever complained about a podcast being too short. Put it like that. If your podcast episodes are 7 minutes, I can almost guarantee the entire thing's going to be listened to in 7 minutes. 15 minutes, yeah, probably about 90% or so. Half an hour, you're probably down about 75, 80%. You start going over an hour, 50%. Just saying. Reasons that people listen to podcasts. Look at this. 74% of the people listen to a podcast to learn new things. Others to be entertained, to stay up to date with latest topics, but to learn new things. That's why I say podcasting is a great way to help people that the niche that you coach in or have products in, that you tend to help, okay? Be it whatever the niche may be. Take, for example, the example I gave for golf. When that person helped his friend fix his golf swing, why did he do that? He listened to your podcast on tips to improve golf, improve your golf game, because he wanted to learn something new. And in the process of learning something new, he shared that with somebody else. They learned also. Now they're going to listen to your podcast. Remember the example we gave? Well, what podcast was that? How do I listen? That sounds like a pretty good podcast. You got a new loyal listener because they want to learn things too. And that's just the golf niche. It could be whatever niche, internet marketing, information marketing, whatever you want to call it, whatever your niche is, coaching programs, lifestyle coaching, whatever. They're going to listen to you because they want to learn something new. Okay. Reasons why podcasts are so enjoyable. You enjoy listening to the podcast because, and here 87% said because I can listen to it while I'm doing other things. That's just what we were talking about prior to, several slides back, right? They can listen while doing other things. They're portable. They can take the cell phone with them and listen wherever they're at. Matter of fact, number 3, you can listen wherever you're at. So look at that, folks. I mean, here it is, 78, 80, and 87%. The top 3 reasons you can listen where you're at, they're portable, and you can listen while you're doing other things. This is the reason you need to be in podcasting. You can help the people you help. You can help coach people that need your information. You can be the one they listen to. You can be the one who teaches them new things. All right. You can be that person. And it's all because of podcasting and the growth and popularity. So what will make someone listen more? You would listen to more podcasts if, and 65% said there were more podcasts available on topics that I'm interested in. Hello, that goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. There may be 1 million podcasts registered on Apple Podcasts. There may be 600,000 active podcasts on Apple Podcasts. There may be, 16% in your niche of the podcasts out there. But the point is, if someone started a new podcast to give more information so that they can learn new things, right? People said they'd listen to it. That's you. They're talking about you here. You start a new podcast in your niche, more people will listen to it because they want to hear a podcast with a different point of view and teach them new things. Okay. If you're a well-known celebrity or personality, yeah, they'll listen to that. They'd listen more if they had more time to listen. In other words, life goes on. That's why I'm telling you, you do not need a 1 hour, 90-minute, 2-hour podcast. Keep it short. 30 minutes or less is ideal. Okay. And if podcasts were easier to discover, 50% said if I could find out about it, I'd listen. That's why I'm saying you need a website. You need the social media posts. You need to advertise by using other people's audiences. And I get into all that during in the training program. But these were things that will help you generate more downloads. Downloads equal listeners. Listeners equal subscribers. Subscribers equal possibility of monetizing your podcast. Okay. At least generating more business over in your niche, your coaching platform, book sales, whatever the purpose is for your podcast. Okay. Now, remember, shorter is better. The average podcast listener spends over 5.5 hours per day listening to audio. Now, you might think, oh, wow, that's cool. They'll listen 5.5 hours a day to a podcast. No, that's not just a podcast. This also includes their 1 hour, 30 minutes each way travel time to work. They're listening to traffic reports on the radio, or they're listening to a podcast in the car. It's still audio. Okay. They get home, they turn the TV on while they're fixing dinner. They're not really watching. It's just in the background. That's still audio. We're saying 5.5 hours a day, 5 hours, 39 minutes, listening to audio, not just podcasts, but listening to audio. Now, how much of that is podcasts? Okay. Look at this. 28% of the time, people are listening to podcasts when they're listening to audio. Podcasts are the highest rated among all platforms, including AM, FM radio, streaming audio. That's usually on your cell phone or computer. YouTube's only 11%. When you or someone else purchases an album and has it downloaded to your cell phone or whatever, and you play that music, that's listening to audio. That's 13%. Sirius XM is 4%. The music channel and music videos and all that is only 3%. Only 3%. Remember when this was really popular? Not so much anymore, right? But look at podcasts. 28% of everyone who listens to audio listens through podcasts. That is amazing. That's just amazing. That is more than AM, FM radio combined. People are listening to more podcasts than they are the radio. That's why I'm saying this is now the medium of choice, right? This is awesome. The amount of time listening to audio on a smartphone compared to streaming audio, 42%. Look at the AM, FM radio, 6%. Streaming radio, 18%. And then again, music they own, 19%. 42%, when they listen to, up here, 28% of the people listening to audio are listening to podcasts. And 42% of all audio is being played on the smartphones. Remember the graphic I talked about before? You need to make sure that your podcast is formatted to present properly on a smartphone, not just, oh, it's there, but you got to scroll down and read it. It needs to present properly. Your host needs to be able to do that. Okay. Now, this is where the survey came from. 4,398 respondents, age 13 and over. Online and offline has been tracked since 2014. These are accurate numbers. These are accurate statistics. These are compiled annually and released about March or so of each year by Edison Research. It's offered in both English and Spanish. This is accurate information. All right. Praise the Lord. I hope you got a lot out of that. There we go. Hope you got a lot out of that, because this is a great opportunity. I don't know if you could tell that throughout the presentation when I was sharing this information with you. I'm excited about podcasting. I've dedicated about 10 years of my life now to podcasting. I started in what today they call podcasting back in 2009. That developed into our online radio station, Evangelism Radio, which led into my interview-based podcast, Kingdom Crossroads Podcast. It's been going about 3 years now, and over 750 episodes at the time of this recording, 650 interviews in 3 years. Yeah, I've been busy, okay? With the radio platform, my online radio, the nationwide AM radio I was on for a year, all of that, I've got over 4,000 recorded episodes. 4,000 recorded episodes in 10 years. Now, what does that mean? I've been there, done that. I learned not just what works, more importantly, I've learned what does not work. And I avoid that which does not work, which leaves me only with that which works. And that's what's resulted in the growth of not just the radio station, but the podcast as well. And that's why I'm helping you to get started, or at least if you're already started, to help you increase the value of your podcast to a listening audience. And again, whatever you want to use your podcast for, it could be just be information only, or it could be to market the services you offer as a coach, or your book services, or whatever the case may be. This is an opportunity for you to increase by helping other people. When you start helping other people, they look at you as an expert. And if you are an expert in their eyes, you're bringing value to their life. You're helping them fix a problem they have. And when you offer them the answer to the problem that they have, they're willing to buy your coaching programs. They're willing to buy your books. That's the importance. That's how a podcast can help you. All right. We're going to go ahead and wrap this portion of the video up. I hope you got a lot out of that. I hope these statistics have shown you that podcasting not is just here to stay. It's on its growth trend right now. I mean, it is from when I started way back when, I think there was like 10 or 15,000 podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Now there's 1 million. This is just on its growth trend. Think about back in the 1950s and 60s. Televisions, yeah, almost every house had a television. One. By the 1970s and 80s, almost every room, each bedroom had a television. There's one in the kitchen, one in the living room, one in the den or whatever, the family room. Most homes had 3 or 4 televisions. That's where podcast is right now. We are on that growth spurt, and you can be part of it. You can take advantage of the popularity of podcasting and bring more value to your clients, helping them with issues they are trying to resolve, increasing your business, increasing your product sales, increasing your book sales, increasing your income. And it all starts with podcasts. This is Bob Thibodeau. We will talk again soon. Have a great day.